Hey, it's me, your host, Bree Stockwell. Today, I'm bringing you a new series for this podcast called Women in the Wild. These are impromptu conversations with female photographers while out in the literal wild. You'll be hearing extra background noises like kayaks bumping each other, jacket swishing, birds doing their thing, and more. In this episode, I chat with Suzanne Roady, who I met while kayaking and photographing the cypress swamps in East Texas. You'll hear about her journey in photography and our experience among the cypress. If you'd like to join me next year for a women's kayaking photography retreat, DM me on Instagram or email me at wow@wildwomanphotography.com. Details and webpage coming soon. Now, on to the episode with wild woman Suzanne Roady. Let's go.
Yeah, totally. I'll get your info. So my voice is a little rough because it's early. I woke up early, right? We woke up early.
Yeah, very early.
You guys woke up even earlier than I did, I think.
4:30-ish?
Oh my gosh. Oh yeah, I think I woke up at 4:30.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's early. So when you come out, by the way, we're out here on Benton Lake in Uncertain, Texas. It's basically part of the whole like Caddo Lake system, and there's just amazing, gorgeous cypress trees dripping with moss. Anyway, it's gorgeous. And I just met Suzanne Roady out here on the lake, and we started talking. And I said, "Come chat with me do a little mini episode with me on the podcast." So here we are.
Hi.
Hi, Suzanne. So can you just tell me a little bit about maybe some of the things you just told me about your background, and then what kind of photography you like to do?
Well, my background is I started photography shooting in high school with a rangefinder camera that my dad loaned me that ended up, I thought I was blind because I could never get anything in focus. And it turned out the rangefinder was broken. So I didn't give up. I kept going and actually took some photography classes in college, and then ended up shooting product for a while. And always loved it, but I realized I've trained myself to be super slow, because with product you can be in a studio and you get to spend all day on one shot, and it's really cool. And then I had kids, and photography couldn't really manage it with a husband that travels and kids.
As it happens.
Yeah. And when my kids were getting ready to leave, I decided, this has been a part of my life for most of my life. And I wanted to get back into it, but I knew I didn't want to do product. And I've always loved nature and wildlife, and thought, okay, wildlife photography, that sounds like a place to start. And picked up digital. And when I stopped doing photography, it was back in film days. Digital was just coming in, and it was super expensive. And then when I decided to get serious again, I got a DSLR, and I could not believe how stupid I felt. It was just like, this is a camera. I mean, I know what aperture and ISO or / film speed or shutter speed. I know what all that is. I should know how it works. And I just felt like I could not get anything right. And then I tried to shoot RAW. And I first looked at my RAW images, and it's like, these are horrible. Why would I even spend my time doing this? And I actually found a woman, Susie Esterhaas, who's a woman that lived in the Bay Area. I don't know if she still does, but she's a woman wildlife photographer. And I heard her give a talk at REI. And I had a daughter who was a teenager at that time, and I thought she was interested. And I'm like, I need her to learn from a woman. So we actually hired Susie. She did a local thing at the Monterey Bay Aquarium and that area. And so we went with her. And so I ended up, when I was looking at my stuff that looked like crap, I was like, Susie, what's wrong here? And then she explained how RAW works and what you have to do with it. There's no such thing as straight out of the camera if you're shooting RAW. And so that was the start of the journey. And then I have met some other amazing photographers along the way, and I don't spend all my life doing workshops or anything, but I have been lucky in the people I found, and we were just talking about a woman. Can I mention?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so there's
can you mention a woman photographer who's amazing? 100%,
well, I guess
1,000%.
I just mentioned Susie. Okay, so I just was on a workshop with Christy Odom, who is this phenomenal photographer, Nat Geo, Nikon ambassador, humble, sweet, amazing person and amazing photographer. And so I had taken some mentoring workshops with her, and she's so gentle about bringing you along, and things like I was telling her about what I just mentioned about the snowy egrets, and I was telling her about, these images don't do them justice. They're fun, they're fighting, they're up in the sky, but the sounds they make, they make this sort of gargling underwater noise, and I was trying to describe it to her, and she's like, well, shoot video. And I've never thought of shooting video because my background is stills, and I used to shoot view cameras, and video was just never an option. And she walked me through shooting video, and I actually have shot and produced some videos now, and the enthusiasm and the ability to see someone's interests and to lead them in that direction without pushing them. It's just invaluable to me. And so I'm here actually with another amazing photographer right now who is not a woman, but who's amazing in spite of that.
We'll mention his name. It's Oliver Klink.
Yeah,
we
Oliver
like you,
Klink.
Oliver.
He's great, and he also is. I don't normally photograph landscapes. I normally do wildlife, and I just thought I've been wanting to learn more about landscapes, and I've taken a few local workshops with Oliver, but I've never traveled with him. And he's a great person. He's a great teacher. He's so kind. He is an amazing photographer. His books, his shows, his gallery shows. I look at his work and my jaw drops.
Same.
It's phenomenal. and yet he's a humble, gentle, real person that is willing to help people, and it doesn't matter what level you're at.
That's
and
awesome.
It doesn't matter, we heard some stories about him towing somebody on a kayak yesterday.
Oh my gosh.
He didn't have to do that today, which
right.
was, we were kind of all proud of ourselves for that. But he's willing to do it. And to me, it seems a very difficult job to run workshops or groups and to herd a bunch of people that don't know each other and with different backgrounds. And yet I've been super lucky in finding some of those people. So
that's awesome. And you thought to yourself, I want to learn more about landscapes, so I'm going to go do some really kind of difficult photography from a kayak in the water. What do you think? Do you think, so can we talk about this experience for a minute? For context,
it's phenomenal.
I know, and we're right in the middle of it right now,
Well, we are sitting, we're in these boats. It's very still water, so it's actually not the hardest kayaking you'll ever do.
Right.
But, you can glide on your boat and reach out and touch or sometimes bump your boat into a tree, a cypress tree. Or, you just look out and they're, I don't know how many yards away they are, but they can be as close enough to touch or far enough away to get a grand scheme. They're dripping with moss. They have some fall color.
It's kind of amazing.
It's quiet except for the birds. We had the flocks of birds fluttering this morning. That was phenomenal. So
there's all the sounds here, and even including a lot of quiet. Like when I was paddling, so to get to this place called Benton Lake, you have to kind of paddle up the river, right? And so it's the birds aren't out. There's stars in the sky. You're you're going through the mist, right? Like that is kind of an awe moment.
Yeah.
When it's dark, but you kind of know where you're going, or you're following somebody.
You hope you know where you're going.
Right. Well, you haven't been to this one, so you're like, I hope that somebody's taking me to the right place, and it's super quiet except like your paddle.
Yeah.
Yourself paddling or turning around, and it's really an interesting experience.
Well, and the other thing I've noticed about being around both here and at Caddo Lake, the air smells so good. And I mean, I'm from an urban environment, and I'm suburban, I guess. So I mean, we have a lot of trees, but I keep taking these deep breaths because I guess the moss. I was talking to somebody local recently, and they were saying that the moss filters the air, and it catches a lot of the pollutants and particulates. And it's just, I take a deep breath. It's amazing. It's like, wow, it's so clean. It's not like mountain air because, it doesn't have the pine scent, but it's clean air.
And that's partly like what adds to the experience of it all is like the smell. Well, I don't know about there's no taste, but like, whatever.
Taste.
Right. Yeah. Right. Whatever you're hearing, you're seeing light move in different ways. In fact, we had some light, and then all of a sudden we had clouds just come and kind of block everything. It was kind of a warm sun, and now, and today's the first day we've had some like fog on the water, which is really cool.
Pretty.
Isn't it pretty? Yeah. It's like mysterious, and I don't know. It's a really special experience, I think. And now look how still everything is. Like the water is so still.
Yeah. It's funny because you move your kayak in to get a composition, and you only take a few strokes, and then you let the boat drift, and then even a few strokes will cause ripples in the water, and then you have to just sit for a while, and sometimes you might have to back paddle 1 or 2 strokes, but it's like trying to get the composition without getting ripples if you want the reflection. But yeah, there's no wind. It's just super calm. And very, I hear one motor right now, but that's the only motor I've heard all morning in hours. So,
yeah, it's kind of a really unique experience, I think. Versus like hiking up to the top of the mountain and trying to get the like grand vista or whatever we do.
I had never heard of this place before I saw Oliver's workshop here, and I am so excited to be here.
Yeah. And by the way, Suzanne lives in California, and I grew up in California. But you're moving to Michigan.
I'm moving to Michigan.
So, and there's going to be some amazing stuff there too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You'll have to get something to paddle. So
we have kayaks.
Oh,
yeah,
see?
We already have those.
Oh, you're already on top of that. Yeah. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to explore like the big mammals because in the UP they have Upper Peninsula.
Yeah.
They have the moose and I think they have bear and stuff up there too.
Ooh.
I'm not sure, but I've got the best sandhill crane photos I've ever gotten in a 2-hour walk on a lake last summer. And I have gone to photograph. I've gotten up at the 4:30 in the morning to drive out to the place in California because they winter there, and there's a cornfield, stubble, birds are skittish, can't get close, all of that. And we got out at this place in near Ann Arbor and got out and parked the car, walked to the information kiosk, and there's cranes there, and they were not skittish at all. As a matter of fact, you kind of had to shoo them out of the way.
Oh my gosh.
So it was cool.
And that's what I love about photography. You just never know sometimes what you're going to find, so the exploration is part of the fun of it, right?
Well, and going different places, like here, I don't know what birds are here, and trying to talk to local people, find out what birds are here, where's good places to go. I was worried about the crocodiles because I've been to Florida. I was like, we're going to be kayaking? What?
And have you even seen one alligator?
No, not a single.
No, because it's too cold
That's
for
right,
them.
alligator, not crocodile.
Yeah,
but the first thing I did when it was like, it's on the border of Louisiana, do they have alligators there? And sure enough, they do, but yeah, not an issue.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's true. That is true. And no, I haven't seen a single snake. It's been perfect.
Yeah.
And the great thing about paddling in a kayak is like you're not even wet.
Not yet.
And you won't be.
No, well, maybe getting out. That'll be.
Nah, I don't think so. No. I think you'll be just fine. And you have muck boots on, so.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's all good. So before we go, tell us a little bit about like what you love to photograph. I know you like wildlife photography, but tell us what you're really passionate about.
Well, I would say wildlife in particular because I love animal behavior. I love learning about it. I also have dogs and did dog agility for a while. I've retired my dog now, but learning like how to train an animal or what motivates an animal translates both to domestic and wildlife. And so the thing about photographing wildlife is you have to know what motivates them or what their behavior is. And so there's another amazing photographer, another male named Jared Lloyd that I've done some workshops with. And his background in animal biology is phenomenal. So things like and I'm probably going to get this wrong, if you watch like a fox or a coyote hunt, their success rate is dependent on what direction of the compass they're facing. And I can't remember if it's north-south, they have a higher success rate, or east-west. I think it's north-south. But things like that, I mean, how would you learn that?
I don't even know.
So if you're setting up for a photograph and you're following a coyote and say it's in the snow and you can tell that it's trying to get a mouse or something, you're going to have more likely a successful shot if they're facing a certain direction.
That's interesting.
So
fascinating.
I find that stuff, I just get so excited about it.
And I just want to hear about it because, I like photographing rocks and dunes and stuff like and trees and stuff like that.
So then you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, but there's other things, you pay attention to light. And of course, we're photographers, so we all pay attention to light, right? Because that is the thing.
And you do set up, and sometimes,
Yeah, and I think wildlife is really interesting. I always just have this idea that you have to wait forever to get a photo.
Sometimes.
But maybe not.
But you know what? Today I sort of felt like we were waiting for a while. I was waiting for the sun rays to come through the trees, and it wasn't happening. And then I went and found all this other amazing stuff, so I didn't have to wait for that.
Yes, isn't that wonderful? Like when things don't happen kind of the way that you envision it, there always is something else. Yeah. If we're looking and we're creative, and we kind of have the eye like, oh, what's next? What's around over here? Yeah. There's always something.
Well, and that's sometimes hard because you get so set on a certain thing and you're looking a certain direction. And it's like, no, turn your head, or turn your body or something. And it's like, the best stuff might be right behind you.
Right. So I have a friend, his name's David Hunter, and I think I've talked about him on the podcast before because he's done some artist in residencies. And anyway, but he, early on, the reason I met him is because he kind of not totally befriended me, but he reached out to say, hey, if there's anything I can help you with, just let me know. And I love that there are people out there like this who are like, hey, if I, like you've mentioned a whole bunch of different mentors, right? Yeah. So we can go seek those, but it's also so nice when someone just extends the olive branch or a hand to help you, hey, how can I help you? And so I always remember him saying, just remember to look behind you. Always look behind you. And so even though it's been years, I'm always turning around going, what is behind me? David would want me to turn around.
What great light am I missing?
Right. Or is there something, sometimes I think maybe I should look down. Like what's at my feet?
Or up.
Or up. Yeah, like what's up? Like we're here under trees, and if I look up, I can see, all kinds of different patterns in the trees and stuff like that. So there's, doesn't matter north, south, east, west like the coyotes, right? There's always something interesting to be found.
Well, and that is something I've noticed. So back when I was shooting product, it was a competition, because if you got a job, that meant the person in the next studio didn't get it, or vice versa. And so people were friendly, but it wasn't the same thing. And I found that with nature photographers, whether it's landscape or wildlife or whatever, people are pretty helpful, and they're nice. They're nice people. And I found, a lot of times with wildlife, you end up in areas where there's hunters or fishermen or women, and people will come up to me and go, oh, I just saw this really cool bird. Fishermen will come up and say that I saw this really cool bird, or somebody who's hunting will come up and say, there's something down there, you should go check that out.
And you're like, wow.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you.
You don't expect that, and it's really awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome.
And you get to be outside.
Totally. Yeah, it's kind of the best of a lot of different worlds, One thing I really love about this place, or about being out in nature to do, photography, even if I'm not a big wildlife photographer, is just being in the moment and feeling like my own humanity, because you really kind of feel small when you're out here, as a human, Well,
I used to rock climb a lot when I was younger, and the thing about rock climbing is you could die.
Yeah.
I mean, rock climbing, backpack, anytime you're out,
Right.
And I know, like, when I would be really stressed at work and I'd go climbing, it's like, all that stuff meant nothing. And that's like, you come out here and, the fact that somebody cut you off driving or something means nothing. All
Right.
the little tensions of life, they just go away.
Yeah, because it's all about now and this moment and where I am on this lake and whatever's around me versus all the other peripheral stuff that actually doesn't even really matter.
Yeah, this is the important stuff.
Totally.
And I don't know if your listeners can hear the noises in the background, the birds. It's amazing.
Right? Here, let's just be quiet for like 10 seconds. There's these vultures that are up in the trees, like tons of them.
Yeah.
And they all fight to have which branch is which. So I don't know if we can pick that up or not. But anyway.
It's cool.
So, yeah. So I think you're right. This is the important stuff.
Yeah.
That's good. Thanks, Suzanne.
You're welcome.
It's
Thank
great
you.
to chat with you and meet you.
Feel free to cut any of it out.
Okay, so one thing I forgot to do is have Suzanne tell us how to find her. So tell us how to find you and tell us what you want us to know about you. Or
Oh, I think I already did.
yeah, well, tell us what you want, what you want to promote. Come on.
Well, I see, now you're putting me on the
I know
spot.
this is what
All right, so
I know.
I have a website and Instagram that I use for photography, and the website is SuzanneRoady.com, which is SuzanneRoady.com. And then I have an Instagram, which is Roady Photography.
And we'll put it all in the notes.
Okay.
Yeah. And is there anything else you want to share?
What I want to promote is, the more I need to post more on both because I don't. But I am pursuing, gallery work, and I also need to set up a page to sell from my site, which I don't have, and I need to do that.
Yeah.
So that's my goal for the next year.
There you go.
2024. I'm gonna have a selling page, but
so DM her if you want any prints.
Yeah. So that and galleries is kind of my nearest focus.
That's awesome. Thanks, Suzanne.
Thank you.
Come with me on my next adventure. Be a wild woman and join me on one of my small group photography escapes in places like the cypress swamps of East Texas or White Sands, New Mexico. Go to wildwomanphotography.com for all the details. While you're there, you can check out featured wild women, episode transcripts, and more. Oh, and I'd love for you to support this podcast and all these incredible wild women in photography by leaving a review or sharing with a friend. Thank you so much for listening.